Hello, audiophiles, and welcome to another episode of Guitar and Pen, a songwriter's notebook. I'm Mark Will, author, songwriter, and publisher in permanent exile, currently based on the island of Taiwan, and I'm joined once again by my good friend Craig in Germany. Welcome back.
What's up, Mark? How's it going?
It's going. I've been running around doing all kinds of nonsensical things, but I think I'm ready to Re-Roxy. Are you?
I'm always ready when you are, and you're looking resplendent today in your attire. I have to say, I'm looking a bit of a plain Jane, but you've beat me on this one today.
Well, I'm wearing an Amazonian shirt, or at least I hope that's what it is. I'll explain why directly, but I'm also wearing a red cap. I meant to wear this hat during the last episode or the recording of the last episode of the Rejoice podcast series on Books Are Burning, which is one of my other podcast shows. But there is a little bit of red in the third Roxy Music album cover, so hopefully it's appropriate and it's not too bright. It almost looks orange, so maybe it's...
Can red ever be subtle? Maybe. We'll find out.
It won't blind anyone, hopefully. But anyway, yeah, this is episode 3 of that Re-Roxy series. It's called Guitar and Pen Remakes, Remodels, Roxy Music. And so what we do is devote one episode to each of the Roxy Music studio albums, of which there are 8, I believe. And we're now on the third album. The first album, the debut, the eponymous Roxy Music. That was our first episode. Last time we talked about the second album called For Your Pleasure. And the third Roxy Music album is called
Stranded?
Stranded. Don't leave me stranded here. Yeah, please fill in when I
You're on the spot there.
yeah, when I lose my place, you gotta help me out. But yeah, so Stranded is the third album, and it's been a while since we recorded the second episode, so we've had a lot of time to listen. Any immediate thoughts you'd like to share, or before we get started with the slideshow?
For me, it's still an enjoyable, interesting, and somewhat unique journey. I've tried to just listen to the one album at a time. I think when we first started, I was listening to a bit of everything. I just had like a playlist kind of thing. But since then, I've tried to really kind of hone in on the one album and just kind of get into that and then take a little break from it, get back into it again, maybe try in a different setting like walking the dog or, messing around, editing videos or whatever I'm doing. It's kind of in the background. I've tried to kind of experience it in certain different ways, and it's been really nice actually getting into an album again, like from start to finish, and just kind of really absorb it in that kind of way that we used to.
Right. Well, I'm the same way. I don't want to be distracted by Roxy Music tracks on other albums, so I very much focus on, whatever we're preparing to podcast about,
I should confess, I kind of cheated the other day. I watched I think I sent a link for this documentary. There was 2 documentaries. One was 72 to 74 or something like that, and that was really good. And then the second documentary was one of these kind of BBC talking heads, but there's no one, as in the talking head style rather than the David Byrne project. But they were, I watched it the other day, and it was a bit rubbish to say. It was people enjoying Roxy Music, which is fine, but it was all like such luminaries as like Sadie Frost and the guys from Heaven 17 and all that kind of stuff. So it was a bit of a mixed bag. You could tell they were into the band and they enjoyed it. And Sean Ryder was in there as well. Anyway, it was a very kind of cheap and cheerful BBC production on the joys of Roxy Music.
Not very informative, but just like fanboys and girls.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine, right? It was like an hour long, and then it just kind of went, all right, we have to skip all the good stuff and then get to the stuff near the end, right? It was all a bit, well, I suppose we'll cover that ourselves when we get into the later episodes. So that, apart from that one foray into kind of, the other later tunes and so on, I just try to focus on the one thing, the job in hand.
Yes. All right, well, let's get to it. Let's start this slideshow. Can you see the
Yep.
First slide. Okay, there it is. Yeah, so Re-Roxy, Guitar and Pen remakes, remodels, Roxy music, as I said. And today's focus is Do the Stranded. That's the name of this episode because the third Roxy music album is called Stranded. And did you notice that they never put the title on the album cover? It just says
I did
Roxy Music.
actually. Yeah.
I mean,
Now it might
I
be on the
say
kind of
never.
center, might be on the center spine of the record. I'm not sure, but
Yeah, yeah. Well, I say
because then
never.
you
I
know what
think
it is.
I think some of the later ones do have the title on the
But
album
this is
cover,
very
but
much image and band name up front, or
right, right. You have
you're
to
getting it as a
open
kind
it
of
up
standalone piece of art.
to find out what you're listening to. I mean, they marketed these early ones as the first Roxy music album, the second Roxy music album, the third Roxy music album, which is interesting. So, yeah, this is a an Amazonian looking lady who seems to be in the Amazonian jungle, and I understand they hosed her down pretty well so that we could see some nipple poking through the
A bit of
skimpy
flesh, as it
clothing.
were, right? Yeah.
Yeah, the skimpy
Was she
clothing
not a
she's wearing.
playmate? I can't. Did I take a note of her name? I don't think so. But she was a famous Playboy model. I don't know, a playmate. I don't know what they were called. But this was it Marilyn Chambers? Was that her name? The model
Ooh,
here, we can see.
Marilyn Chambers is like a porn actress, right? I
Maybe it's
don't
someone
know.
else. Then. I don't know where I got that from.
I
But
had the
the
idea that it
one
was a
was saying,
model, possibly one that Bryan
yeah,
Ferry was dating or romancing or banging. I don't know.
because a bit of the interview I read with her, she just said they picked her up in London. They took her to this kind of studio, and then they explained to her what they were going to do, and she felt very comfortable and relaxed. And they knew the kind of artistic direction that they were going for, and she had a nice time.
Okay. I read something, maybe it was on Wikipedia, uh, saying that she was a little bit surprised when they hosed her down, but maybe she enjoyed that. So
Right.
here's the back side. I mean, this is a pretty fuzzy photo of, I guess it's a CD, but you can see her legs, and yeah, she's in like an exotic location, a kind of jungle, it appears.
Mm.
I guess the idea is that she is stranded. Um, I think of like the third track, Amazona, right? We'll
Mhm.
get to that later, but she's a kind of Amazon herself, I guess, and maybe she's in some locale that's meant to suggest the Amazon jungle. I don't know. We can think about that as we go forward. You open up the actual album cover and if you have the LP, you open it up and the inner sleeve has these Warhol-esque, very Warhol-esque
Mhm.
portraits of the official band members, of which there are five at this time, but you've got all different day glow colors, three portraits of each band member. Well, it's all the same portrait, but different colors. I mean, that's about as Warhol-esque as you can get. Not that he had anything to do with the design, but clearly that was an influence, which is appropriate for a glam rock band, I suppose.
Yeah, it's quite it's quite remarkable how ordinary they look. I mean, other than being rock stars and all that. I mean, if you compare this kind of image to what you see today, with I don't know, like Ed Sheeran or whoever it might be, take your pick. But these all kind of look like everyday normal blokes in that sense, right? There's
Blokes.
nothing blokes, there's nothing very look at me, I'm a rock star kind of thing about it. And I mean that in a positive way. I mean it's very real in that sense.
Well, they're working class fellows,
Yeah.
but yeah, the headshots here, uh, despite the colors, do seem fairly ordinary, but let's look at their attire. Not yet. This is like if you actually had the album, you would see the photos and like some liner notes here and there. You can see it is called the third Roxy music album. The print is very small here, but all the details of track listing and personnel and so on are listed if you happen to be fortunate enough to have the LP. So here is a live action shot from this era of the band, 1973. Do you recognize everyone? Eno is gone. There's no Brian Eno anymore.
They've got a new eunuch, to take his place. A new younger model, I believe.
They remodeled, and ended up with
Eddie Jobson, isn't it?
Eddie
So he's like a
Jobson.
teenage prodigy by all accounts. from what I
Okay,
read.
I didn't know he was that young. That's interesting.
Yeah, I think he was like 18 or 19 or something at the time. They got him from a prog band. I want to say someone like Spooky Tooth or someone in that of that ilk. He
Okay.
recorded an album with that, and then they pinched him, and here he is.
Well, I'm sure it
He was
was
playing violin as well.
an attractive gig for him. So whoever he was with before had to take a back seat to him joining Roxy Music. I think he made the right choice. Yeah, well, 4 of the veterans are recognizable here, and then of course there always seems to be a rotating bassist, and that's the case here. We'll get to him in a moment, but this is, I don't know, this black and white is from Top of the Pops maybe, although the background doesn't look like it, so I'm not
Maybe
sure.
the dinner jacket's making its first appearance here, perhaps.
Dinner Jacket with bow tie,
With the
Mr.
bow tie.
Brian Ferry
You've got a
playing it
Teddy boy standing next to him playing the sax.
right, and old Paul Thompson looks the same. He's always got like a wife beater, or what do you call that? A vest, the sleeveless shirt.
Right.
All right, and Phil has his Firebird, Gibson Firebird that we talked about last time. Phil Manzanera, the guitar virtuoso. Here's another one. If you would like to have this image for yourself, you have to pay the Getty family, apparently. It's number 86103-699, in case you're wondering. It's pretty fuzzy here, but if you pay that wealthy family for the privilege of owning a clear, like high resolution version of this pic, I guess you can do that. But yeah, there's Jobson on the left, and then the new bass player, whose name is, do you know?
Gustafsson or something?
I thought it was Gustafsson, but yeah, Gustafsson. Sounds like a Swedish
We'll meet
name.
in the middle.
Yeah. There's
John,
Brian
I think
Ferry.
maybe is his first name.
Okay, and there's Brian Ferry in the middle, this time with a kind of a, what is that called? A cravat? One of those, that's a cravat, isn't it?
It does look a bit suspiciously like a cravat with a double-breasted white suit and the jacket.
Looking pretty
match.
sharp.
Yeah,
I mean, he looks
dapper.
like a, dapper. He looks like a movie star, and a little bit like Jimmy Page. There's Mackay, Phil, and Paul Thompson with a bandana around his neck, apparently. So anyway, there's still
or maybe it's a working class cravat. Maybe we could discuss
working class cravat. Yeah. All right, so still pretty glam. And speaking of glam or ex-glam, here is Eno, who has left by this time. Remember, we said last time that he only appeared on the first 2 Roxy albums, and then he went to do his solo project and went on to produce Bowie and others, of course. But he said, apparently, yeah, my favorite album is the one they made after I left, and that would be this one. So if he is to be believed, or if whoever reported that he said this is to be believed, his favorite Roxy album was actually one that he did not appear on, and it was this one, which is interesting. Does that surprise you, or?
I suppose the truth is probably somewhere in the middle, right? We have unsubstantiated reports of, I've read the same thing, that this is his favorite album. And maybe so. Maybe he's just kind of okay with it and he's moved in his direction. The band have moved, or Bryan Ferry at least has moved in the opposite direction, and yeah, they're good to go with it.
Yeah, I wonder, maybe he's just
He might have made
being
his
polite.
peace with it.
Yeah,
Right, yeah.
yeah, he really thinks, nah, For Your Pleasure, that was the masterpiece, but I'll be diplomatic and say, oh yeah, the one after I left. What was it called again? Oh yeah, Stranded. All right, well, we may have already touched upon this, but first impressions, I guess, just like when you got back into it, when you started listening for the purpose of doing this podcast, like, how did you feel about it with respect to other Roxy albums? Like, where did it rank among the others? Where let's start with that, since we're talking first impressions.
For me, if we're kind of ranking them, then if we're ranking them even from the start, I'm going For Your Pleasure, then Stranded, then what's the name of the first album? Roxy Music?
Well, eponymous, yeah. Roxy
The eponymous
Music.
album. I'm going that way. I mean, this might change over the next few episodes, but at least that's the way I got it. One thing I did notice is a certain kind of, now this could be a production thing, it could be a record company thing, could be a band thing, but the kind of, the order of the song. So you're getting, I think it's eight tracks, 42 minutes long.
Yeah. It's another eight track album, just like For Your Pleasure,
with a couple of monster long tunes in there as well, right? So you're kind of getting a good bit of diversity there. Now, the album really kicks off as it did with the second album and the first album. You're getting, it's almost like, all right, you want a hit? Here's the radio-friendly hit. Let's turn it up. You know, you could imagine DJs playing it, or you can imagine it being played in student houses, house parties, in pubs, on top of the pops, whatever it was. Here's your hit, right?
Yeah,
and that's how it starts.
It's danceable. It's a rocker. I mean, there's kind of a formula, right? Like, they always kick things off with the high energy banger, you know?
And it's, in a way, it's kind of luring you into a false sense of security, because after this, it takes you on a certain different type of journey, but in a good way.
I think they did that on the first two albums too. Like, there's
This is what I'm noticing in it.
An immediate change of pace on the second track, but we're getting ahead of ourselves a bit. I would just say that it's like, well, first of all, when I started listening again, when I was just looking at the cover and song titles, I was like, wait a minute, I forgot all of these. And then immediately Psalm, Mother of Pearl, is like, oh yeah, these are some of my favorite Roxy Music songs. So it became very familiar very quickly. And then, I got into all the other tracks too. But it's like, if you could say the first album was throw everything at the wall and see what sticks, and then the second album was let's focus our experimentalism.
I think the producer or the production obviously helped enhance that or kind of brought certain things to the forefront. And I think this is another example of that as well.
I was just going to say, I think that trend is continuing. They're becoming more focused, more, I guess you could say less experimental. It's like they've found their sound and their loose formula. I mean, it's not formulaic to the point that it's cookie cutter or whatever, but they they know what their strengths are, and they just play to those strengths, and very successfully and very succinctly, we might say.
Right on.
Um, looking at the personnel again, all songs written by Bryan Ferry. That's what the first two albums says, but not anymore. That's not the case, at least not completely. There are a couple of exceptions to that, which is interesting. So, the other band members are starting to experiment with composition. I mean, not on their own, but there is more collaboration. It's not just like Ferry says, here are the songs, learn them, flesh out the arrangements, and let's go record and then tour, right? So the other guys are finding their voices, which is good, I guess, and interesting. You can't argue with the results.
I mean, we don't really know. I mean, it might have been a case where Bryan Ferry just had a suitcase full of songs, right? He just had like a huge bundle of them ready to go, and they were like, "All right, let's work through these." And then when you get to they were so productive, and so there's hardly any time between the first album and the third album. I mean, the way you look at it now, right? If someone releases an album every year, people are losing their minds, right? They're just like, why are they doing that? And of course, that could be marketing reasons and all the other side of the business. But this is just like time after they're going to the well, time after time after time, and it's coming up gold.
Well, so you're saying like before Roxy Music even started, he had all these songs, and then like they recorded them over the period when they did two albums, and then he was like, he had a few left over, but he needed some help to fill out 40 plus minutes. Maybe it was something like that. I mean, I don't know the history of
exactly. We're hypothesizing, if that's even a word, but we're kind of guessing, aren't we?
Yeah, I think, but that makes sense. I mean, I think Lou Reed did something similar with Velvet Underground. Like, I know he had a lot of songs before the band started, and so they basically, the first couple of albums, I think they were recording all of his stuff, and then the other people, John Cale and so on, maybe started contributing more. And I mentioned them because I think VU is a definite influence on RM and BF. So Ferry is voices and piano. That's how it's listed in the liner notes. And now Mr. McKay or Mackay is calling himself Andrew, no longer Andy. That's not sophisticated enough. He's Andrew.
Well, it must be that fancy quiff he's got going on.
Yeah,
that's elevated him to that status.
Look at that little curl there.
I know.
And now he's I don't know, at this point, is he an author as well with his book on electronic music? Maybe. I can't remember if that came out before this, but he doesn't want to be Andy anymore. I think it came out in
the 80s, I think.
Oh, okay.
Early 80s, I think it came out.
So he's preparing for being a respectable musicologist, I guess. And sounds better than Andy, maybe, but I think he dropped that and he's now Andy again. But anyway, oboe and saxophone as usual, and treatments, which I guess means some kind of processing or tape experimentation.
Knob twiddling of some
knob twiddling, yeah. Yeah. All right, and here's Phil again. He is guitar and treatments. Not much to say about that. Paul Thompson, there's only like two pictures of him from this era on the internet, so I think I always feature the same one. Drums and timpani, and there are some like orchestral type art songs on this album, so I guess he's banging away on the, I can't think which track that would be on, but maybe we can figure that out later. Apparently he did play timpani, like
Song
what's
for
his
Europe,
name?
maybe?
Yeah, that would be one. Yeah. Maybe Sunset as well.
Hmm.
What's our boy from Pink Floyd? Why can I not
Nick
remember?
Mason?
Nick Mason, of course. So yeah, he would bang on the timpani as well. And so here is Eno 2.0, the new eunuch or Enoch, Eddie Jobson violin synthesizer and keyboards. And you can see the picture here. It's a violin, but it's like electric and
From
processed.
space.
Yeah, it's pretty
It's pretty snazzy.
futuristic for early 70s. And in fact,
Mm.
I can't think of anyone using that now, so they were ahead of their time. The beat boop quality, though, is a little bit more subdued, right? There's still some
It's
weird
more in the
spacey
mix. It's
sounds.
more in the mix rather than up front.
Yes, and maybe that's due to um, the fact that Jobson is a new member and he just doesn't have the same kind of say that maybe Eno did, or who knows? Maybe that was a there was a consensus that that should be the case, but
Hmm.
we'll look at that on a track by track basis. I think I showed you this picture here at the local secondhand bookstore. I found Theme of Secrets by Eddie Jobson. I didn't buy it. It's 269 new Taiwan dollars, which is about $8 or $9 US, right? So I'm sure if I go back, I could still purchase it. I don't think people are like clamoring
Line
to
up.
have his. I don't think they're lining up to get his solo album from the '80s or whenever it was. But it's probably interesting. I'm sure he's a
It's quite a trippy cover if anything's to go by, if that's a judge
yeah.
to
Looks
go by. You know.
looks like a prog experimental kind of thing. I mean, I'm sure he's a very knowledgeable musician, has some interesting ideas. So maybe I should go back and get it, but not today. All right, and then yeah, here's our rotating bassist, John or Johnny Gustafson or Gustafson. The well, he I think he played with a lot of different people. He was a session guy, studio guy, very competent. You know, they always seem to find good
Solid.
bass players, solid dudes who could hang with the art rockers and contribute some interesting lines.
Absolutely. Quite versatile as well in that
Yep.
sense. You know, going by at least the tracks on this album.
Yes. And I mean, not to get ahead of ourselves, but I do think he continued with the band on the next album or two. But I don't think he was ever a full member, which is interesting. They let the new Eno be like a member, but Gustafson is still a guest artiste for
Mm.
multiple. I think he was on Siren too, because that's him in a video for Love is the Drug, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't know. They cut him out of the equal shares, maybe,
And I mean,
but
these are business arrangements, or yeah, who knows
yeah.
how they've done. You know, in a cafe somewhere in northwest London or something, and they're just like, you know, they write it down in the back of a cigarette packet, and
Mm.
here's the deal. And he's like, all right, I'm up for that.
Yeah, I mean, why not? I think he
Yeah.
still had a pretty good, successful career, and so I don't think we
Here we
need to
are
feel sorry for him.
talking about Johnny. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And I hope this is his picture. I mean, I did a search and this came up, and it looks like the other
Let's
dude
look a
in
bit
the.
stock of the time, though. In 1973, it could be
It
a
could
kind of
be anybody,
identikit of any dude right now.
or it could be AI. Who knows? But
Yeah.
if that's not you, Johnny boy, let us know if you're even still alive. All right, and then he's not a band member, but actually, I think he did play bass on the opening track, but or
They
was
couldn't
that
get a
on?
bass line at worked, and he kind of what or he came up with the idea himself. I forget the track, but I think I read that too.
I may be confusing this album with the
Or even
previous one.
yes, exactly. I think it's one or the other. You're
Yeah,
right.
but anyway, they stayed with Chris Thomas. Remember the first album? They had that King Crimson guy, like the idea man for King Crimson. I think the guy that painted that 20th, or is it 21st century schizoid man or whatever, that
Mm.
famous painting. Anyway, that guy was out after the first album. They hooked up with Chris Thomas, who last time we said did the later went on to do the Sex Pistols album, which was relevant because For Your Pleasure was such an important influence on the punks. But it should also be noted that he was the engineer when, well, I think the story is George Martin was on holiday or something, and he told Chris Thomas, yeah, the Beatles want to record a few tracks. This was during the White Album. And so Chris Thomas was the man who went in there and recorded, I can't remember which songs. Maybe I'll put that in the show notes. But he did do some of the solid work on the White Album, which you can't argue with that, can you?
Not really.
So
It's
so
so. Here's
so
my
maybe.
CV. Here's my resume.
Yeah, is that okay? Would you want to work with me? And he worked with a lot of other people, had his own distinguished career, but I mentioned the White Album part of his resume because there is a kind of Beatlesque quality to this album. I would say it's diversity, and it's, I guess, instrumentation. There's kind of a world music feel to some of it, which the Beatles may have pioneered. Just being willing to, for example, have strings and lush keyboard arrangements and so on. I don't know. For me, it's Beatlesque, and more
Mm.
and more I think of Roxy Music as being like the true inheritors of the Beatle tradition. Like there's something about their discography which is, did I already say this last time? Maybe so, but
Say it
there's
again,
some
man.
there's something about their discography which is almost sacred, right? Like we talked about how the Stones have how many albums? 40 now, right? And so of course they're all the masterpieces, and then there's some that are like, well, yeah, I guess maybe they shouldn't have released that one or whatever, right? But the Beatles have their sacred discography, and so do or does Roxy Music. It's like, I think that probably this is from Ferry. He very consciously constructed it, right? The first Roxy Music album, the second Roxy Music album, the third, and so on, right? And so the songs are very carefully
Yeah.
constructed. The sequencing is, you can't really argue with it.
No.
There's a concept. I mean, it's high, what, how can we say it? High art, high concept art. It's just
Mm.
very. I love all of that. Like that's my ideal in many ways. So fair play to them for that, and maybe Chris Thomas had something to do with it.
You're going through a lot of not just the visual changes as we looked at the band members there and their current state for this album, but the musical changes as well. So you've got what, 8 albums in 10 years, more or less, and you're going from, well, we won't spoil it, but you're going from that kind of Eno-esque, really futuristic type sound to something slightly or very different by the end of the Roxy journey, as it were. So you're getting
Oh
a
yeah,
whole kaleidoscopic array of wonders.
kaleidoscopic. 8 albums in 10 years. That sounds Beatlesque. I don't.
Mm.
I can't remember the exact
I think
number, but
the last time came out 82, I think. It was the last Roxy album, I think.
Avalon.
Mm. I'm sure
Yeah.
it's like 8 albums in
It,
10 years, which is just
yeah.
bonkers, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
To be that good,
Right.
or better than good, I should
Right.
say.
But yeah, and that's the thing. Like the quality doesn't really drop
It just
off.
doesn't drop off,
I mean,
You
maybe
do.
we'll
Mm. Well,
maybe we'll
it might take
contradict
a detour
ourselves
here and
later.
there, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
right,
I
right,
think that's
right.
only to be expected.
But that's
to be
true.
fair,
That's true of the Beatles as well, right?
yeah.
You could argue
You
so.
don't when you read the sleeve, or as you've been showing us going through some of these slides, you don't get like it is today. I sound like a grumpy old man now, but this kind of an army or a team or both of songwriters and production artists, and we've had to change the key 4 times, and we've recorded it in 10 locations, and
Yeah,
it still sounds like shit. You're just like,
right.
man, no matter how hard they try to polish this turd, it's just not for polishing, right? So maybe that's an old man shouting at clouds type moment, but
That is a disturbing trend, right? You look at, not that I do this regularly, but for whatever reason, just existing in this world, I've noticed like you look at the songwriters on, say, a Taylor Swift track, they're like 10 motherfuckers that
right.
wrote it. It's like, can one person or two sit down with a guitar and or a piano and just write a song? Like,
Let's sketch it out,
it's
let's
got
just
to
kind
be
of
by
see where it
committee.
goes.
It's
Right.
songwriting by committee.
Mm.
All right. Well, we digress. Let's take out the turntable and put on side A of this record. Starting with the opening track, Street Life. As we said, another banger, another danceable rocker, a hit. And I guess it was a hit. This was the single, right?
It came in the UK charts. What did I have it as? It reached the giddy heights of number 9 in the UK top 40 in November 1973.
Okay. Well, I'm looking at this photo of the Station to Station album cover. That's Bowie, of course. And that came out, 76? So I'm thinking, did he get the idea of this, subway or metro, like ambient noise of a metro train on the tracks? Did he get that from Street Life? Because there's a shorter intro of the same type on this track, also opening the album. So
This is probably the only track on it that's very reminiscent of the previous 2 albums, where you've got a bit of kind of experimentation or knob twiddling, as we've euphemistically called it, to get us into the song. The intro of the song is given that kind of ambient, kind of atmospheric sound.
yeah. Well, so they're linking to the past, as we've seen them do before, as they move forward into the future. Like, they're very good about that. And they're also good at like leaving something in the current work which they can pick up on later. And this is an obvious example of that. Well, actually not the most obvious example, but they're referencing the actual title of the album. You may be stranded if you stick around, and that's really something, right? So from the very first track, we already get some idea of the meaning of stranded. After we've looked at the cover and seen this Amazonian damsel apparently stranded in the Amazonian rainforest or whatever, the jungle, Um, we get this reference to street life, and then we think, oh, is this the Strand from Do the Strand, the
Right.
first track of the For Your
Yeah.
Pleasure album? What's going on? So street life, it is a street, right? The Strand is a street in London. What's he talking about? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I do, but maybe not anything of great insight, which might not come as a surprise. But musically, it's a song very reminiscent of the times, the charts at the times as well. So if we take that aside, as I mentioned earlier about, you could hear it at a party or a disco or whatever, it's a great song to get people on a dance floor and all that. If you look at it from the other perspective, from the songwriting perspective or the lyrical perspective as well, is it an observation into kind of modern day West London or whatever it was they were recording this album in London? Is it that kind of scene we're getting? We've come from this psychedelic late 60s into the early 70s where they started and they were all running about in their zoot suits and all kind of mad things. And now the fashions are changing and the kind of, the journey's taking them somewhere else.
Yeah. What was I going to say about that? Something very profound, no doubt, and I've already lost it. But in the middle of this slide, you can see the finger snaps, right? Because they very prominently appear at the end of the track, which is a nice touch, right? It's like a street corner. It's like they're busking, they're out there on the Strand just snapping their fingers and singing, even though there's all that computery noise in the background as well.
It's a bit like the video from Top of the Pops, I think the performances of Virginia Plain when he winks at the end. It's that kind of
winks, yeah.
It's a bit cheeky, It's
tongue
kind
in
of
cheek, cheeky,
nice.
Yeah. I know what I was gonna say. That I didn't include it in the slide, but there's that great reference to he mentions Harvard and Yale basically to say that a degree, I can't remember the line, but it's something like, a degree is not going to get you far in life, right? It's taking the piss out of formal education, which, is a necessary thing. People don't do that enough. I don't know. This line always sticks in my head. Don't ask me why I'm feeling blue, because loving you is all I can do. That's just a great part of the song. There's a nice, this is a guitar. Maybe we're noticing that Manzanera he's becoming a more important member of the band, more prominent, like that. We've got a lot of good riff based songs on this album, not just
there's definitely more riffage on this album.
I think that I noticed that too. It's not just him accompanying, comping.
Here's a bit, he's right out there at the front, and it's
right.
Big and ballsy at times when it needs to be.
Yeah. Before he was basically comping and then playing wild solos, but now he's like incorporating riffs into the main
it's maybe moving away
the
from
songs.
the piano led or piano driven things, because of course it's this album, as we're just starting this album anyway, Bryan Ferry steps away from the keyboards of the piano here, and he's more in the traditional
just
role of the frontman, as it were. And I think Eddie Jobson's taken over the kind of heavy lifting of that side of
that's
things.
A very good point.
Because he's always side on looking at the camera. That's it. That was his thing. That was his move. And then he's now transitioned to being the front man of the band, literally.
Yeah. Okay. Well, before we move, do you have your impressionistic summation? We're all waiting for your track by track blurb. It's not really a blurb. It's more of a summation. So, yeah.
It's a wee bit of that. It's a well-covered song from what I discovered. Artists like Morrissey, John Taylor from Duran Duran, Def Leppard even had a go at this song. And Also, you can find references in the lyrics to chocolate. I'll let people go discover that bit for themselves. So that was quite interesting.
Chocolate.
Chocolate, yeah, there's some chocolatey things going on in there. Not a euphemism. But to sum up, Ferry's unique vocal style leading the way, a bit gnarly, a bit dapper sounding, and very unique in its kind of delivery. And this is a song that I'm sure filled many a dance floor, living room parties, student unions, and gigs themselves. It's catchy, got a great groove, radio friendly, and completely mad lyrics.
Yeah, the vocal performance is you said gnarly. There's kind of a growl to some of the delivery, right? He also has that
Yeah.
crooner, the vibrato and everything that we know so well, but he gets he does get kind of
There's room
gnarly
for the
on this.
smooth stuff later on. This is more like, as we mentioned earlier, a rockier, groovier
Yeah. And
song of that type.
it's really exaggerated, like it's a parody of that
Yeah, right.
again, there's that campiness, right? Like he's having a go not only at his contemporaries but at himself too, maybe. So yeah, well done with the summation. Great opening track, which takes us to track 2 on side A, called Just Like You. And so we said before that after the after the excitement of the initial banger, the opener, there's always like a change of pace. And I don't mean it's a letdown, but it's just completely a completely different vibe. And I think this is a great track. Just Like You, it's called. I'm saying it's sus, but for reasons I'll explain later. Lyrically, I love all of these crazy fairy-esque images: buttercups, daisies, Quicksilver Baby. That's another one of his.
It's more poetic, isn't it? Really, I mean,
Yeah,
it's just poetry.
but almost surrealistic. Like
Yeah,
I can't remember the lines we were focusing on in For Your Pleasure, but Quicksilver Baby is just kind of like, what's that?
Coconut tears and all that.
Coconut
stuff,
Tears,
right?
yeah, from what was that?
That
Was that Sea Breezes? No, no,
no,
no.
that was the second song on the album. The name of which is For Your Plate. No, what's the name of the second song on the album? God, yeah. We should know this by now.
Yeah,
Anyway, it was my
well,
favorite. It was my favorite song on the album. I've completely forgotten. But I've got
right.
the Coconut Tears thing, so we'll take it from
Yes,
there.
Coconut Tears, right. Quicksilver Baby is kind of like that. Just a
Yeah.
very odd, striking kind of phrase. Fashion house ladies, chameleon color, very playful and, sometimes surrealistic. And then I like this too. There are a lot of literary type references to, not that he's referring to anything, but it's like Elvis Costello, Every Day I Write the Book. His albums, his lyrics, right, from album to album, it's like he's conscious of writing a book. He says, it's all here in my book. I'd write it, but don't have much time because, I'm busy making Roxy music albums. But he's basically a frustrated poet or
Oh,
novelist or
yeah.
lyricist
Right. Yeah.
like Dylan or,
Right.
any of the other greats, right? Um,
I mean,
so
you could imagine he's got into his mythical suitcase, right, with all these lyrics there, and he's coming out handwritten, probably, and as
yeah.
he's passing them around, or everyone's looking at him, just saying, "Wow,
And
all right."
they're really
They're not throwaway
fantastic.
lyrics at all.
No, man, they're great. Like they're very well crafted. And I think they removed them from the Roxy Music website. That's like when I'm looking at them, I'd rather go to the source than to fucking lyrics.com or whatever.
Mm.
They removed them for a day or two, and I was like, "What?" And then they put them back up, but with a different font. They had the typewriter font before, and now it's some basic bitch font. So I don't know why they did that, but anyway, it reads like lyric poetry,
Mm.
which is to me that's the ideal. Like when I'm writing lyrics, I want them to look like something on the page, right? Not like you can appreciate them just by reading them. You don't have to hear the song to enjoy the
No.
lyrics, right? So I said it's sus, not because there's anything suspicious about it, but it ends on what must surely be a suspended chord, right?
You got me, yes.
All
Very
right.
jazzy ending in that
Yeah, very
sense, you know.
jazzy. I mean, this is
Mm.
a great track. This is it's like a great, beautiful, romantic, somewhat croonerish song,
Have
if
you
I
been
can
reading
say
my
that.
notes?
Oh
Have you been
shit.
reading my
All right, I'm
notes?
stealing your thunder. Go, go, go. Go ahead.
I have a short paragraph for this one. So, just for you, a really big change of tempo in this track. It's more of a straightforward, if you could ever say that about Roxy Music, piano-led ballad. Ferry reverts to his crooner vocal style, complete with really pretty lyrics and some wonderful, tasteful guitar lines from Manzanera.
Mhm.
This blows my mind that this was written, recorded, released in 1973. It just sounds not like that from 1973. It just sounds fantastic today, all these years later. A nice jazzy ending as well. And fun fact: the song wasn't played live until 2002. Now I don't know if that was it wasn't played live until 2002 or whenever they released it, and then or rather, maybe toured with it, and then they didn't play it again until 2002. But it's quite a gap.
I mean, there's so many great songs. You can only play so many of them live, right? So some minor masterpieces get overlooked in the live
What is it they
performances.
say? Always leave them always want a bit more.
Yeah. But this, yeah, I'll have to check out the live version. It's just a great composition. Excellent. Excellent.
Because you think, where's it going to go after the first track, right? So they've kind of built you up, they've kind of punched you in the face in a good way, right? They've kind of given you a few kind of slaps around the head, and you're like, all right, this has got me in the mood, and then boom, we're like,
Well,
okay, here's a big tempo drop for us.
they've got to remind everyone that we're not the godfathers of the new romantics for nothing. It's like,
Indeed.
and yeah, more and more, I think they are the real inspiration for that movement more so than Bowie. I mean, obviously Bowie influenced all those guys like Duran Duran and so on, but really they're Roxy wannabes, aren't they? They're
Mm.
Roxy remakers, remodelers. So anyway, moving on to track number 3, the exotically titled Amazona, which is just when you hear that name, it's like, what are we talking about here? I think of like Xena the
It's not
Warrior
Jeff
Princess.
Bezos related, right?
Oh,
So,
please no, please no. The A is all important, the A at the end there.
absolutely.
But, it reminds us of the woman on the cover, or at least it reminds me of her, right? Is this a
Lucy,
woman name?
whatever her name was, I forget. She was it
Lucy
Xena the
Lawless.
princess? Was
Xena,
that her name?
Xena,
Okay.
Xena the Warrior Princess, right? Yeah.
I can remember from seeing that in my days in
Yeah.
South Korea on the
I mean,
AFN network and all.
I was thinking about this. Like, Ferry does seem to have a preference for these statuesque kind of Amazonian women, right? Not like skinny, heroin chic, Kate Moss type models. I mean, I'm sure he'd bang them too, but he seemed to like the tall, statuesque beauties, right? Like
Mm.
Jerry Hall, Amanda Lear, whether she was biologically male or female, who knows? But anyway, maybe he had a thing for like Amazon women, and of course they were the warrior princesses.
Right.
Do you know the etymology of Amazon is pretty interesting? I'll geek out on
Go
you.
for it, man. Yeah,
So
please.
it means breastless, right? Mazon is breast. Ah is the privative, meaning like no or not or un, right? So they're breastless. Why? Because they would cut off one breast so they could shoot their arrows. So they're
That's
so
that's
the
mean.
so the one titty wouldn't get in the way of
They're
their
getting away, yeah.
aim, right? So these are hardcore, warrior
Right.
women, and I think
Not to be messed with.
and I think
Or are
Ferry
they?
I think Ferry kind of had a thing for him, so maybe that's why he
Mm,
picked this name. But when you read the lyrics, you realize it's not really a person. It's not a girl. It could be maybe as some kind of Ladytron type name, but he
mm,
says it's a zone, Amazona, a zone
mm.
where there is no doubt. And then he's playing around with Arizona, El Dorado, castles in Spain. So it's all of this fairy tale, fantastical, I don't know, mythological kind of imagery, which he got some help. Well, the not lyrically, but musically, he got some help from old Phil. I've got a little reminder in the corner there, so we don't forget to give him his credit. But I guess he did something right because the new Morrissey album covers this, interestingly.
I still haven't listened to that yet, so I must go back and do that. These flowers are placed in a rather unfortunate position. I'm guessing they're flowers.
Yeah,
I don't
the
really know what's going
the
on.
cover of the single. Well, it's the
Mm,
gladioli, right? Or
yeah,
is that what they are?
yeah, right,
Yeah,
aye.
he's got him in his well, he's packing, let's
Crotch
put it that
area,
way. Yeah, he's
right?
packing. He's
Yeah.
a bit pudgy in his old age, you notice? That's been the case for years, but
He's not bad for a vegetarian. Let's cut him some slack, man. You
sure,
know,
sure,
he's an
sure.
old dude as well.
Well, and
All that whinging and bed waiting and pearl clutching must take its toll at some point.
I'm no one to criticize, but
Right. Well, likewise, eh?
it's
Pots and
just
kettles, man.
noticeable. It's just
Yeah.
noticeable. But yeah, another guitar driven track. I mean, there may be some keys in the background, but this is totally a guitar track, Very important. I think this is where what did they call them? Treatments. There's some treatment on this
Hmm.
guitar and on the vocals for sure. So,
When I first heard it, as in the first, like of listening to it of this time,
hmm
it really reminded me of the Grateful Dead, the beginning of it anyway. It had that kind of,
mm,
I'm not the biggest Grateful Dead fan ever, but anyway, it's a whole podcast for another day. But it kind of got in that groove, the kind of
groove.
very
Yeah,
kind of very
yeah,
kind of hippie trippy. Let's use some rhyming dippy kind of thing going on where it's
that's
all a bit,
right.
and a bit loosey goosey and all of that. I know it's all
Kind of
been,
sloppy,
a
right?
bit,
Kind of
yeah, and
sloppy.
you're right, exactly. And you're kind of, all right, where's this taking me? And then it takes you somewhere else,
And
as
that
is their one.
I think we'd have to say that's totally new for Roxy Music, right? I can't think of anything quite like that on the first two albums. That kind of uh well, it's just so guitar driven. There are no
Mm,
like of course there's great guitar, but it's not you can tell like most of those songs were composed on keyboard, on piano, right? Whereas this probably Phil was just playing around with this riff and he's like, can we do something with it? Definitely
I
this was
didn't,
composed on
I,
guitar. It had to be.
I didn't really like it at the beginning, but it's kind of grown on me. I don't know. I just kind of irritated. Maybe it was a Grateful Dead thing. It just irritated me. I was like this. But the more I listened to it, or the less I thought about it, the more I enjoyed it.
Well, it's not my favorite, but I think it's a really new, interesting thing that they're doing, and it's kind of a showcase for Phil, and so I think it fits. Uh, it's a nice third track on this album, so I give it my thumbs up.
Hmm.
What's
I'll
your
tell you I'll tell you what I've written down. So the
yes?
song the song intro kind of welcomes you in with a smooth, laid back, Grateful Dead like vibe. Then the bridge solo part of the song is a bit more reminiscent of Roxy's more unorthodox and experimental sound. There's more spacecraft liftoff music, and then back for a last verse or two to finish up. They sound like they're having fun in this track, or at least Manzanera does, and it for me, as I said a minute ago, it gets better each time I've listened to it.
Hmm. Yes, sir. All right. So here is the fourth and last track on the first side of this, well, let's go ahead and say it, great album. And this is one of the standouts for both of us. I think we both consider this to be our second favorite track, so I gave it the second place red ribbon. It's Psalm, of course, and that name, that title, just immediately conjures images of King David playing his harp, right? I mean, there's no getting around that. And it is a religious song. To what degree he's sincere. It's kind of like Velvet Underground's Jesus, It's a beautiful, moving, poignant song, but you don't necessarily take the theology too seriously, right? He says, "Believe in me" once seemed a good line. Now belief in Jesus is faith more sublime. It's like the kind of faith that a drunk or a heroin addict has when he's at, his lowest point or whatever. I mean, this song is just, as I say, I'm not sure I specifically mentioned it. When I started listening again to Stranded, it's like, oh shit, Psalm is on this album. I love Psalm. This is amazing. I mean, it's just, and it's so simple too. I think it's just 3 chords, but the way they build, the dynamics of this and the lyrics and the how can you even describe it? The crescendo of emotion, incredible. Did I do it justice?
Rightly so. It's a bit, when you hear this song, if you're coming to it new, let's just say you're new to the band, or you're following us through this journey, and you've just come through the first 3 tracks on the album, and you're going, all right, this is quite an interesting experience so far. You've taken me down all these different roads and avenues, and I'm curious to see where we're going next. And this song's a perfect example of just how musically diverse they were without losing that kind of Roxy sound, if that makes sense. So here they're kind of experimenting with what I called in my notes here. I kind of called it a New Orleans jazz funeral sound. I don't know what other genre to call it. It reminded me, now this might sound, pardon my cheesiness, but it reminded me of the scene from Live and Let Die, the James Bond movie, when they're in New Orleans, if you can remember that one, where they... Anyway, that's what it reminded from Live and Let Die.
I haven't seen it, so...
That was my musical reference to it. That was my musical reference into it. There's a scene very reminiscent musically of what we're hearing here, and that's where it took me.
New Orleans jazz funeral. Yeah, that's a good description. I mean, the drums, Paul Thompson's, what is that? I mean, it's not a shuffle. It's like a... How would you describe that?
It's more like a rudiment. So you're either playing like a rudiment, in this case, it's not a paradiddle, but it's something like that. You're basically playing, you used to get all these books, you probably still do, of like military drum marches and things like that. It is
kind of militant,
This sounds a bit like that, where you would get these kind of, so you could practice them at home on a pad kind of thing. And that's what it's very reminiscent of. But it's really gentle and subtle. And it plays underneath the music note, and it accompanies it rather than leads it in that way.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way to do justice to this song. You just have to listen. I mean, I picked a couple of lines, but the whole thing from start to finish is pure poetry, and then it's poetry of sound as well. It's just...
I mean, it's deep, man. It's deep. It's
so
this
great.
Is not just kind of... This is not just, throw away back of a cigarette packet. Although that may be the case, but it's there's nothing wrong with writing songs in that manner. But this is deep and philosophical, and the flow it's got to it as well.
It's brilliant. It's a gem, and it ends with that plaintive singing of forevermore, which we'll come back to later. But what a great way to close out side one, 20, what is it, 20, 21, 22 minutes of the first side, and then you end, it just fades out with this. It does fade out, right? There is a fade out, but during the fade out, he's singing forevermore. It's like it just goes on into eternity as it's ending, The end is the beginning, is the end is the beginning, is the, and so on, right?
I've got a couple of things to send you. I didn't want to bother you pre-recording, but one of them is a quote from an interview with Bryan Ferry from the NME, the New Musical Express, from the 13th of July, 1974. So I shall send that on to you, and he's talking about this particular song, and I'll let you. He's talking about the John Donne School of Hedonistic Wit and things like that. So anyway,
my goodness!
I'll pass that on to you, and maybe
John
we can
Donne,
even chat about that going into the next one. So I'll send that on to you. I also have a link for a live version of it. I don't know if you've seen the live version of it, but
I have seen one. I don't know if it's the same one.
It's the one he's wearing the dinner jacket thing. I think it's recorded in Germany, actually.
Yeah,
I think it's
the
in
Beat
German
Club
TV.
or whatever. He's talking about, so this is his John Donne song, basically, is what he's saying?
Do you want me to read the quote for you?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. His admiration of the metaphysical strain made me remember a conversation I had with Eno, when the latter stated his contention that our Mr. F would reach a peak of creativity and then crack and become totally committed to some organized religion. So the context here was they always thought Ferry had a religious side to him, or he was a religious person in one way or another. Ferry, after all, could be seen as a direct inheritor of the whole John Donne school of hedonistic wit, which consequently turned to religious fanaticism as the years took their toll. It's a very interesting process, isn't it? All these gay blades getting up to the incredible hanky-panky when they were young, but who at the same time wrote very moving love poetry until they ultimately approached religion with the same fanatical zeal. I could see myself perhaps falling into that, and that's from that interview from the NME. So the first part is someone talking about it. I shall pass it on to you. And
yeah, I'll put that in the show notes. That is amazing. I mean, actually, I'm a student of John Donne myself. I've got a story in this collection. I'll go ahead and pimp it now. Ernest Games. There is, one of the narratives is called The Indifferent, and it's based on John Donne's poem, The Indifferent. And it's,
who says we don't bring you otherworldly treats, Mark, about platform shoes and quiff haircuts and songs in the back of cigarette packets and John Donne?
Well, as I said, Ferry is one of the literary songwriters, no doubt about it. And knowing that background makes me love this track even more. Just incredible. So those audiophiles out there who haven't heard this, do yourself a favor and check it out.
I've never heard anything like it before, during, or since. It's truly unique.
The first time I went through, I just had like all of the Roxy albums on autoplay, just going through the whole catalog while working on collages or doing housework, or not that I do a lot of housework, but whatever. Maybe I was taking a nap.
You're a modern man, Mark.
You know what I'm saying? It's just on in the background, absolutely. Right? And I'll never forget the first time I heard it. It's like, what is this? Oh my goodness, so amazing, beautiful, yeah, like nothing else.
Otherworldly.
It gets into those regions. It's just
doesn't
sublime.
it?
Yeah.
There's no hyperbole here.
Great track. All right, so let's flip it over and check out side B. We start with another strong, album side opener called Serenade. I thought this one was interesting, or I think this one's interesting because it actually has the word croon, which he rhymes not only with swoon but also tune. I mean, this is the end of the song, so you don't get the title till the very end. That's pretty clever. Call the tune, will you swoon as I croon your serenade? No line there, no rhyme there, right? So that's kind of a surprise too. And then earlier we got Boohoo Willows. I love, and again, a romantic image, the weeping willow. That goes back to at least Elizabethan times. Boohoo, boohoo willows. That's kind of interesting phrasing too, though. Weep around you still, mirror reflections of dew, but waterfall pages of an open book. There's that book again. Could shower new horizons soon. That's interesting phrasing as well. But the open book, um, again, those literary references. I've got a. If you're watching the slideshow, you can see the weeping willow tree, and in the corner, we've got a little pic of, and I'm sure this was intentional on his part, on Ferry's part. It is Claude Debussy, who is the composer of Clair de Lune,
Did
right?
we pronounce that Debussy?
I've always heard Debussy, but maybe I'm
We
saying
could
it
list that
wrong.
with all our other
Debussy,
accent artists. Debussy,
Debussy,
right? I
Debussy.
mean, if it's Glaswegian, it could be hoops. I don't know if you want to go down that road, right?
But yeah, all of those oon endings, right?
Mm,
Tune, swoon, croon. He also rhymed that earlier with Clair de Lune. So that's a.
right. When I
I
was
gotta
going
put
through the
that in
lyrics, that
there.
was the Claire de la Lune, by the light of the moon.
Yes. Yep. Um. I mean, this is I'd call it like a European art song. It's in the tradition of, I don't know, German Lied or something. It's almost like a
Mm.
Kurt Weill music hall type song. Just very nice. I mean, I don't know what more to say about it. It's a solid track. It's not, in my top five of these eight necessarily, but it's great. It's good. It's solid. What do you have to say about it?
Well, again, we're in the kind of same vein of thinking here. So here we go. Is it an album filler? You might think that, but I'm not so sure. It fits nicely between tracks 4 and 6, and because of its more, let's call it straightforward, rockier tempo, it gives the listener a well-earned breather and a chance to get into the groove again. As I was saying, between tracks 4 and 6. Oh, yeah, still to come, track 6, that is. That said, the more you get into the lyrics, we have mention of the French folk children's songs we mentioned, Au clair de la lune, By the Light of the Moon, the more questions we might have about the story of the serenade itself.
I saw that too. The Clair de la Lune is some kind
Mm,
of folk song, but there's a romantic, and this is important. Debussy is a romantic, classified as a romantic composer, very
mm,
impressionistic piano music. I think his composition is called Clair de Lune without the la, right? And I think that's
right.
what Ferry opts for in
Mm.
this case, but clearly he's referencing that. And so he's like alluding to and trying to tap into that romantic art music
We get a
tradition.
kind of slightly more driving, rockier feel to this song, but at the same time, it kind of counters that with the lyrics here. So you're getting a kind of really bombastic reaction in two different ways. You're like, well, the music's going in one way, and if you get into the lyrics, you're just like, all right, this is it shouldn't really work, but as we've said many times and probably will again, it does.
Well, this is one of those that I can't, like, Serenade, the first song on side two. Yeah, I know it. How does that go again? But then, like, when I hear it, it's like, oh, yeah, this one. Right, right, right.
It's lots of drum fills, and it's almost a bit like, all right, we'll let Paul kind of play a wee bit here and kind of just,
Is this the
And I don't mean that in a
timpani? Is this
demeaning way.
where the timpani are
I
heard?
don't think so. No,
Okay, no,
I don't
not
think
here.
so.
All right. Okay, moving on to a song for Europe. The picks in this slide are a little bit goofy, or I don't know, Mickey. Um, a song for Europe. It's called. Uh, I guess the first thing to point out is that Andrew Mackay gets half a writing credit here. So just as on side one, Phil Manzanera assisted, he got an assist, or maybe he was the primary songwriter of Amazona. On a song for Europe, Ferry collaborated with the newly christened Andrew, no longer Andy Mackay. Um, this is another very dramatic art song, maybe more so than Serenade, but clearly, like, we've talked before about like the British aspect of Roxy music. Here they're opting for a more continental um affiliation. It's like they're signaling their
You
connection
get the
to
second half in the song in French, or almost the second half of the song in French,
and
and Latin
Latin
as well.
and
Latin, yeah.
Latin. I'm gonna have to put the translation in the show notes, but that's yeah, it's really, I mean, it's like he's going deep. There's reference to Paris, clearly, Notre Dame and the Seine, right? But then he says, let me zoom in on this so I can see it. These cities may change, but there always remains my obsession. Through silken waters my gondola glides, and the bridge it sighs, right? The
Mm,
bridge of sighs. That's
the religious studies.
Venice, yes. That is
I mean,
Venice,
it's like a
right?
postcard collection in that way, because maybe when this song or this album came out, the opportunity for many people to travel on this, even though it's not geographically far from the UK, but at that time, 73, 74, I mean, that's it's like another world away to visit
Mm.
these places, unlike it is today.
Yeah, the Bridge of Sighs is Venice, and of course the gondolas are too, right? With all the canals. So, yeah,
Like,
Paris,
like like
Venice,
like movies would transport you there, obviously. Movies even like The Third Man, if you're talking about Vienna and things like that, you would see these kind of things and you were just like, wow, even black and white didn't matter, but it was unique, it was special, it was just a completely different place from where you were or where you were brought up or where you were living.
and this is another cinematic song, like we had the Bob on the first album, and I don't know, like 2HB, right? The
Mm.
the noir Humphrey Bogart tribute. This is very cinematic too, but maybe it's more like new wave rather than classic American cinema. It's a really interesting song. And this line or this stanza or whatever, though the world is my oyster, though the world is my oyster, it's only a shell full of memories. Damn.
Add that one to the list. It's just
Yeah. There's some
wish I'd
interesting
thought of that.
interesting musical interludes. I think there are two, right? It just kind of veers off into this. Oh, this is the one. There's one interlude that sounds like an 80s movie, American movie soundtrack. Um, I don't know if you know the part I'm talking about, but there's like brass, right? There's some horns
Mhm.
that are totally unexpected. I think it's this, right?
Apparently, there is no orchestra on this. It is the band
So it's the
and the
synths.
yeah. Apparently there was no. Or there is a choir on one of the songs. Did we miss that? is the choir on Psalm
At the end of Psalm,
at
yeah,
the end?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But from what I've read, or at least from led to believe, it's a band production in that sense. So we're getting a bit
Okay,
of a
so that's
beefier sound to it.
a Eddie Jobson
Yeah, and a Mackay special,
master
I think.
stroke or whatever, and Mackay,
Yeah,
yeah. Well, speaking of Psalm, we had the Forevermore, right? But then this song ends with Jamais, 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 right? Never, never, never. So
mm.
that is an interesting juxtaposition. Forevermore, never, never, never. Wow. Wasn't expecting that. And then we get a little whistle at the end, right? That was
Very,
unexpected.
very Parisian, or at least it was for me.
Hmm.
And that, no, I wasn't expecting it. That's for sure. Can I tell you what I've got? I've got another kind
Yeah.
of direct. I've got a direct quote, and I've got some thoughts of my own. What would you like first?
Your thoughts first.
All right. So, hopefully, this kind of flows with what the first quote is. Here we go. So it's kind of following the first quote from a music reviewer, a guy called Barry Walters. But anyway, this is my thoughts on it. So it also gives Ferry another chance to stretch his legs vocally and explore some of his influences in this moody, atmospheric, and somewhat beguiling track. The romantic locations, the sad and somber nature of the lost love he's yearning for. Of course, you could do this in Jarrow, South Shields, or good old London town, but the song really works with the added exotic, romantic, sophisticated, and truly European cities of Paris, Venice, Vienna, et al. And a whistling outro, so yeah, I caught that too. You can dream, I'll start that bit again. You can dream of the great filmmakers of the recent past, Jean-Luc Godard or Francois Truffaut,
Hmm.
or Claude Chabrol, or the great thinkers of the time, Sartre or Camus. And it's quite an onslaught in the senses in a very good way.
Is that all you, or does that
No,
include
no,
the?
that was all me.
Okay, yeah. There's existential angst since you mentioned Sartre and Camus.
It gave me that. I didn't even mention the Edith Piaf
Yeah,
vibes I was getting, or the chanson,
right.
other vibes there as well. Which is
Yeah,
you can hear it right there. You know, the
absolutely.
the other fun fact. Now, whether this has anything to do with it or not, who knows? As I was kind of listening to it and making some notes, I was wondering when did the UK joined as it was known then, the common market, right? So this is before the EEC and all that. So
Hmm.
the UK joined the common market in January 1973, and who knows, that might have been in the news a lot at that time. So you're combining this with the Eurovision Song Contest vibe. I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
who knows where they are? That that's where I was getting these kind of vibes from it. They've certainly elevated it to a different place, but I was thinking of other inspirations where it may have come from.
it's almost like it's like Ferry consciously tried to write a Eurovision anthem or song.
Well, if you're going to do it right, as a wise man once said.
Yeah, better than the garbage that usually is presented. Have you heard the Killing Joke song European Superstate
I have, yeah.
from
Not for a while.
from Absolute Descent, right?
Mm.
There's a, I'm thinking of that obviously because of the title, but recently I've been perplexed by that because it's like are they being ironic, or does jazz actually think that would be a good idea? Disturbingly,
Mm.
Anyway, save that for another time. But I guess I was thinking about it because I read, this is a digression, but whatever. I read that Killing Joke was pretty close to the Tavistock people, so it's like, were they a psyop all along?
Mm.
Killing Joke, that is. That would be
Mhm.
disappointing. Maybe they were, but anyway, I digress. Okay, so here is our favorite song. Both of us give this the first prize blue ribbon
Gets a
award.
snazzy rosette here, right? It's looking very resplendent.
Yeah, well, that's because track 3 on side B is Mother of Pearl, or as we affectionately call it, MOP. And this song, what can you say about it? Again, lyrical excerpts, they don't do it justice. Talking about it,
Have we
describing
ran
it.
out of platitudes, Mark? Have we ran out of them? I don't think so.
I mean, you just have to listen. It's incredible. It's 2 songs in one.
Right.
I guess we should start by saying that, and we've seen that trend in Roxy music tunes before, right? It's like 2 or 3 songs somehow, made to link. Well, 2 or 3 parts linked together into one incredible song, and this is, I would say, I don't know, is that a cappella part like a third separate part? If so, then there are 3 parts, but there are at least 2. There's like again, this is, I'm surprised Manzanera didn't get a songwriting credit on this, because there's an important riff that, I mean, I can't believe, well, maybe Ferry wrote it himself, but it sounds like a Manzanera part. So it starts out
It
with
does
that.
sound like a guitar part, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Quite,
amazing.
quite glam as well. He's quite a glam
Yeah, it's
friggin'
great,
guitar
man.
move, yeah.
It's so rocking, and then suddenly the bottom drops out, and there's a change of tempo, and it's
You're
almost
like, wait a
like
minute.
yeah. What is this? Did I miss something, or did the track skip ahead?
There's not even like a kind of prelude to it or a build. It was just like, no, we're going to just stop here and go over this way.
That's right.
Come with us. Come hither.
But then, interestingly, there's kind of a build up and crescendo similar, at least dynamically to what we heard in Psalm. So maybe there's a kind of parallel there. But this is my favorite. Just too many great lines, but I always,
you can listen to that riff over and over again, the intro riff that is, because you're just like, oh, this is great,
and it just
kind of want to dance.
It just cycles,
air guitar, whatever you want from it, it's got it. You're just
over
like,
and over.
This is cool, man.
I mean, it's
there's
almost
no singing in it.
It's
there's
almost
no lyrics in it.
It's almost Led Zeppelin,
Yeah.
Although there are parts that are like unexpected. Led Zeppelin would be more like, I don't know how to describe it. Not more in the pocket, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, it's heavy like that, but it's also very Manzanera rather than Jimmy Page.
Restrained when it needs to be, I think.
Yeah, and there's just an unexpected, not key shift, but the movement from one chord to another is not necessarily where you would expect it, right? It's kind of like 1, 2,
you might even
3,
think the
and
song's
then
backwards.
4.
Yeah, you might think the song's back to front, right? The groove comes at the end, and what we get in the second part comes first, right? If you were, maybe it did. Maybe that's how it all kind of came together.
Maybe that's how it started.
Why don't we just flip it and kind of see how that works?
So this is one of those like sea breezes from the first album, where you've got those very abrupt changes, and it's like 2 songs in one at least. But then, as we say, it ends with that incredible a cappella part, right? Just the repetition of the chorus. Mother of pearl, I wouldn't trade you for another girl. So many great lyrics. I've just chosen to focus on, if you're looking for love in a looking glass world, it's pretty hard to find. Damn, that's good. That is so good. And a place in the country, everyone's ideal. Here we go, linking this album to the next coming up. Album 4, episode 4, Country Life. So they keep doing it.
They're just leaving a kind of slight paper trail, if you can even get us, like, but they're leaving these little drops of, nuggets for you to pick up as you go along and see
That's
where
right.
it takes you along the magic path.
And here in the slide, there's a pic of a mother of pearl bauble. So mother of pearl is, I mean, again, you assume it's a girl. He wouldn't trade her, but who is she? She's Pearl's mom. She's Pearl's mom. I mean, that doesn't seem right, but like Amazona is just another Ladytron.
Right. I'll tell you what I've got here, Mark. I don't have a long list of things, but maybe we can pick up on one or two of the references that I have here. So these are all from me. These are my thoughts, as varied and bonkers as they may be. Mother of Pearl comes as a welcome relief after the intensity of the previous number. It's groovy, riff-tastic, really electrifying, and makes you want to dance. And then there's the switch. The Roxy move once more. The song then gradually builds itself back up, slowly getting into more of a swing, as Bryan waxes lyrical about the joys of hedonism, fame, and the one true meaning. The cocaine references, or not, the band or Ferry himself being flavour of the month or flavour of the moment, and the darlings of the art rock glam scene, and then ... I left it at that.
The cocaine references, what are you thinking there? Potential
I had to go and kind of
references.
check up. Yeah. Mother of Pearl apparently is a synonym. Not a synonym. Another one for cocaine, I believe.
Like a slang term for coke?
Yeah, I think so.
Really?
I think so.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Or was it some of the other lyrics in the song? Anyway, that's what I kind of picked.
Okay.
Not due to my... you could tell by my lack of knowledge of the subject, but I believe there are some references there, or euphemistically references to it.
Okay, we'll have to look into that. Is MOP a reference to coke? Another great couplet, I guess. Divine intervention, always my intention. I love that. Like I always find myself singing that. Again, another great vocal performance. Like Psalm, I think it's pretty simple. They're not like a lot of changes. It's just repeating the same pattern, but the dynamics of the band, the way they build it, and Ferry's
the way it's performed, the actual exactly. I was going to say the actual outwith. We haven't even talked about the production values yet or anything, but maybe we have, but in a kind of inverted way, we've kind of really talked about. But you get to feel the band exploring and having fun and kind of, and it's such a diverse musical album that this is just another kind of string to the bow. You're like, all right, we've done this. It's almost like they've got a checklist there. Have we done a bossa nova yet? All right, maybe we could get a groove in there, but it's really, really clever in that sense. You're musically clever. It's just, and as you rightly said, it's the simplicity. It's the key to all of this.
It is like in terms of composition, it's very simple. It's maybe 3 chords over and over and over again, but the way the band, I mean, the dynamics of the band,
how you can elevate that, or how you can kind of just
it's just
build
incredible.
on that.
Yeah, I mean, they're really in sync. This is a great live band. This is not just some studio guys.
Like the eggheads doing the stuff together. Right. This is proper.
Maybe they did some overdubbing and tracking, but like the fundamental. The core of the track is live. I'm sure they recorded live and then, added some stuff later, but it's just the energy on this is incredible. And it is interesting that our 2 favorites are both these pretty simple songs that just cycle over and over again, but they build, and it's the dynamics that really make it an incredible track, Like if someone covered it or if you just did it at an open mic, just singing it with an acoustic, it probably wouldn't be as effective. I mean, maybe you could make it powerful, but it's something about the band and their dynamics that just really makes this one stand out. Am I going to repeat myself? I can't do justice to it. But
No,
anyway,
but maybe we can have a look at some of our uh, show notes and see. Maybe I'll let you investigate a bit more and see what you can find out. Or am I just talking at a hole in my hat? As
well,
my man would say.
I'm curious now. You might be onto something. But anyway, a place in the country, everyone's ideal. Let's all keep that in mind because
Get your
episode
cravats
4,
ready.
yeah. All right. So let's wrap this up with the appropriately named final track, Sunset. I mean, what a great name for the closing track of an album. Not only the end of side B, but the 8th and final track on the whole album. It's called Sunset.
Are we setting the sun on this particular chapter of the band? Is there one more of the what I would call the old Roxy in there? Well, I guess we'll come to that in the next episode. But there's, for me anyway, there's 2 distinct Roxy phases. There's the first 4 albums and the second 4 albums, without getting any too many spoilers away. And maybe Sunset, maybe I'm just kind of, my overactive imagination is kind of taking me somewhere else. But it could also be the closing track of an album, which works perfectly just as well, especially with the simplicity of the track.
Well, yeah, let's keep that question in mind as we move on and listen to the 4th album. I don't have an opinion about that at this point because I don't really remember Country Life, but let's see. I mean, again, lyrically, is it the breakup of a relationship? Is it the end of the current Roxy music era? I don't know, but he says, why are you sad? Do you disapprove how we've wasted our time? That reminds me of the Eagles song Wasted Time. Sunset, end of my day, my decline.
No, what we're not really privy to is we're looking at this album in kind of chronological order, or track by track, from 1 to 8 in this case. Who knows when this song was written, or the background of when it was written? It could have been written when he was 17 or 18, or it could have been anything. And here it just fits. I mean, it might be something as simple or basic as that, without taking anything away from it.
Well, and here again, we've got interesting instrumentation. Say that fast 5 times. String bass, which sounds really, it sounds almost discordant, right? It's so low that when I first heard it, I thought there was something wrong with my speakers. You know what I mean? I think the string bass...
You couldn't afford a cello or something? I don't know. It's kind of... It's a little quirky, maybe.
Is this what they call the contrabass or the double bass or something?
No. I couldn't tell you. Actually.
String bass?
It kind of sounds familiar, yeah. It's like a stand-up bass.
I think I've got the right... Yeah, I think I've got the right picture here. But anyway... I can't remember who's playing it. Is it Mackay or Jobson, or they had some studio guy? But again, more variety, more diversification of instrumentation. It's nice. It's interesting. Not my favorite track, but
no, but it's definitely less is more on this track.
Yeah,
we're getting a very kind of... In fact, I'll tell you what I've written down. It's a couple of sentences. Sunset again surprises the listener with its stripped-back aesthetic and sparsity. It really has a beautiful feel and mood to it. That was it.
And there's also some jingle bells, one of those shakers with bells, just very briefly, so that they just did a little bit of hand percussion to add some color. Again,
But it
not.
very much sounds like a Bryan Ferry song. It's from his songbook, his
Hmm.
collection, as I was talking about this suitcase he's had around with him with his
Right.
lyrics in it. And here's another example of it. But it's a really nice way to take you off into the sunset, frankly.
Yes, I mean it's
That
a
can be a bit cheesy.
you couldn't ask for a better closing track.
It's delicate, it's fragile, it's
Mm,
quite soft in that sense, the way he delivers the song. It's, you might not need something blasting in your face at midnight to if you're enjoying the sunset. It's just
yeah.
close your eyes and take in the moment.
Well, and as I say, it's not one of my favorites on the track. I think it fits. It's great. It belongs, in the eighth slot there. But I noticed, like, you look at the YouTube comments, and many people say, like, many more than a couple, they're like, this is the most beautiful song I've ever heard. Like, there's effusive praise for
Yeah.
its romanticism and lyricism and its musicality too. So some people are just overwhelmed by it.
I
They
think these
would
are
give
people who are
this.
digging albums exactly. Maybe they're just kind of like because you don't have to wait long to get to the end of the album. It's only 42 minutes or whatever it is, but it's worth getting there. And would you categorize this album, Mark, as all killer, no filler?
I think I would. I mean, it's like I was
I
saying
would.
before. Yeah, each track it's you can tell, like, it's in terms of sequencing and its connection to
It's
the other
it's really
tracks
it's
and the
really
overall
brilliantly
concept.
thought out as well. The album.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt you. I'll let you go. Excuse me.
Well,
Go on.
that's exactly where I was going with it. It's like it all fits the overall concept of being stranded in the various ways we've discussed,
Mm.
right? Like stuck in the city or stuck in some exotic location. There's this longing, there's this reaching out to the continent, and
There's a
uh,
religious element to it
there's a
or
religious
not.
element. There's drugs and decadence. It's great. I mean, I don't know that I would rank it higher. I mean, we can get into our final thoughts, I guess.
Our pedantic scoring system as we
Yeah.
as we move
Uh,
on.
yeah. And lessons learned and so on. But I don't know that I would rank it higher than For Your Pleasure. But it would depend on my mood. Like, some days I'd be in a debut album mood when I'm feeling darker, or maybe I want to feel darker. I'll go For Your Pleasure. And then this is just a great pop rock, almost Beatlesque in some ways, less experimental album. It's more mainstream, straightforward, less experimental, straight ahead, but
Commercial
also
sounding in some
more,
ways.
maybe, but still Roxy and
Mm.
more guitar, right? Guitar is becoming more prominent, which for me is often a good thing. How about
Beauty
you?
Queen was the song we were thinking of from
Beauty
the
Queen, right,
second
right,
round.
right,
I just looked it up on my phone because it was bugging me.
right, right.
I'll tell you my final thoughts. The playing, the arrangements, the vocals, the lyrics, the production all combined to give us a more rockier album in many ways, or at least a less experimental one. There's
Mm.
plenty of diversity on the record, but one that has less feel of Eno's more ambient spacecraft liftoff sound, as I like to call it, and instead really tries to let Ferry take the reins and explore a whole new avenue, or should that be boulevard if we're going down a European route,
Mm.
of musical and lyrical opportunities. And it's a daring record for its time in 1973.
It is. What else would have been like it? I mean, nothing.
When did Dark Side of the Moon come out? After this?
Oh, yeah, we should check the dates on that. But even so, I mean, Roger's lyrics are quite different.
They're a bit more bread and butter, if I can put it like that.
Yeah, not as
deep or as
surrealistic.
philosophical or as
Well,
exactly or poetic.
you could say they're deep, but they're more abstract, right? Time,
Okay,
money,
that's fair. Yeah,
time, money,
sure,
you know.
absolutely.
Whereas,
That's
yeah,
fair. They're
yeah,
different,
that's a different conversation.
right.
But yeah, that would be an interesting comparison contrast, right? Pink Floyd,
McCartney and Wings were doing this stuff. I
right?
mean, Deep Purple, Zeppelin. I don't. Yeah, we could go through the charts. I mean, the charts will be full of absolute guff as they are today as well, right? We have to kind of go through it with a bit of a fine tooth comb. But it might be interesting to see who the musical peers were, or who else was kind of taking things to the next level.
This year in music, 1973. Yeah, I don't know. This would have been towards the end of 73, right? Because For Your Pleasure came out early 73.
Yeah, and his solo album, Bryan Ferry's solo album, came out a month before this album was released, which I find completely bonkers as well.
He was a busy bee, wasn't he?
He's just like, I've got a couple of hours to spare and get some studio time and let's go and make a covers album before making covers albums was a thing, right? So I believe they're called reimaginings now, right? We have to go down this way of describing it.
I mean, I'm not as familiar with his solo stuff, but he really is one of the greats. I mean, what an amazing songwriter and
what I've
performer.
really kind of enjoyed over the last 3 albums, and there's plenty more to come, is he's quite humble in a way, but also quite pretentious. I quite like that. He's not afraid to say, yeah, I'm a kind of art school guy and here's all this heavy stuff and I'm a minor son, but hey, take it or leave it. And then there's the other side of it where it's very kind of, he's not shy or embarrassed or afraid to say, I'm going to make a covers album and then I'm going to show you all my musical influences here.
Yeah, and he's not afraid.
I like that.
I do too. He's not afraid to dress up. He's not afraid to be literary. He's
One minute you're a space pirate, then you're a United States airman or whatever that kind of uniforming is into in the later videos. Right. Which is very campy as well.
Yeah. He's not afraid to be campy. Someone said he's the most homosexual straight guy in Britain. Someone was I can't remember who, some journalist maybe, but it's like his interest in fashion, his you could say obsession with it maybe. But
his artistic background or his peers or his crowd.
He and Bowie are so much more authentic than say someone like Robert Palmer. I was thinking of him because I don't know, some video popped up about Power Station and like they were just on the verge of a big tour and they were going to do Live Aid, and then he called them up 10 days before and he's like, nah, I'm out. And then he releases his Addicted to Love album, Riptide or whatever. So he just cashed out.
Right. He was also in a band called Vinegar Joe, Robert Palmer.
Yeah.
I think he was in it with Elkie Brooks, of my music trivia.
That sounds right. I saw something about that on YouTube. But, can you compare those dudes? He's just a Bryan Ferry wannabe, right? Not that I liked Power Station when they came out, and I still like them. That it's too bad that Tony Thompson,
man. Now you're talking, right? You're talking
that
about
guy
language,
is a motherfucker, man.
Yeah. He was the Chic drummer as well.
Absolutely.
No.
But he could rock out. He wasn't just
he was a beast,
playing disco beats, right? He's fucking incredible. Of course, he played with Zeppelin at Live Aid, I think, along with.
I think he might have been off his tits as the
Phil
phrase
Collins.
might go. And Phil Collins didn't know the song either, right? But anyway, what could go wrong?
But he's a monster, and then you see that actually the two Taylors can rock out pretty well too,
Yeah.
when they
Well,
get
I think
away
that's why
from.
Andy Taylor left Duran Duran.
Yeah.
From my understanding, was he wanted to be a rock guy. In fact, I don't have it anymore, but I remember buying his solo album, and it had songs on it like Space Station Number 5, the Montrose song.
Oh.
Is it Space Station Number? Anyway, his solo albums were worth checking out. It's very guitar orientated. I think he even went on to produce like heavy metal bands, Thunder, bands like that come to mind.
Well, listen
Andy
to
Taylor.
listen to his solo on Bang a Gong, their cover of the T-Rex
Yeah, I
song,
had that album as well. I had the Power Station album. It's kind
Yeah,
of,
me
I think
too. Me
it's
too.
black and orange. I think if I'm
I
kind of
think mine was
getting
red. I don't
flashbacks.
know. And I was
Was
gonna
it?
go.
Anyways,
I was gonna go see them at this amusement park in Houston. I wanted to get tickets, and then of course they canceled. Right, there was no show. They were like
shit the
advertising it,
bed.
and then it just. But yeah, I was a big fan of that. No, that solo on Bang a Gong, he's like shredding. It's like this is the
Yeah,
Duran Duran dude.
right.
I didn't know he
I
could do
think,
that. That's
yeah,
pretty
right.
interesting. All right, so
Yeah.
anyway, what did we learn? I've got a couple of thoughts. Intertextuality. We've kind of already hinted at that, and this graphic's interesting because it shows two books. Again, there's that literary quality, and they're arrows going both directions, right? So forwards and backwards. They're links to the past, and then they're hints of what's to come in the future. This is almost reminding me of like the James Joyce podcast I've been doing with my colleague GJ Villa. We've been talking about how there is foreshadowing and also these callbacks, right? Like the one episode uh, hints at something to come later, and then there are also callbacks to previous episodes. It's the same thing with Roxy, isn't it?
Yeah. I think we just mentioned that just a few moments ago. Exactly, we're getting this kind of either a paper trail or
Yeah,
there's
exactly.
there's traces of something for us to follow. What now? Whether that's in any particular direction other than backwards and forwards, but is it taking us to another place? Is it? I'm interested to see where that will take us. If indeed there will be any more of these little nuggets lying around, and for us to kind of pick up the scent and follow it.
Easter eggs, the millennials call them, or the Zoomers, right?
All right.
Or cookie crumbs, or whatever, right? Like
Mm.
paper trail, that's good too, and it is literally a paper trail because he's conceiving of it in literary terms and like as a book. So I love that. We said we before talked about cannibalizing oneself and remaking and remodeling, of course. So this is another way to think of it. It's a great aesthetic principle for not only musicians but authors as well. And keep on trucking is how I describe one of the other um guiding principles of this record, right? Like just keep going, keep doing your thing, don't quit, never stop. Once you've found your sound and your purpose and your modus operandi, keep going,
Right.
keep going.
Uh, I mean, in these three albums, I'm not sure how old they were, the band at the time. They do look quite old, but I think that was just the 1970s did that. 1970s Britain did that to people that aged them before their time. But
Mhm.
there's something, there's something incredibly not heartfelt. That's not what I'm looking for. Inspirational in this kind of way, where they're so, what's another word for productive? I've used that word before, but their
Prolific,
quality of work,
prolific.
prolific. Thank you. There we go. Thank you. You're a wordsmith, man. This kind of prolific, and it's kind of great if you reach a certain level, but they keep kind of raising the bar,
Yeah.
album to album, and this is where I'm kind of curious to see or excited to see where this is going to go. Can they raise the bar yet again?
And are they, is it a, how can I phrase this? are they just trying to outdo themselves every time, or like Bowie, are they just moving on to something else, going in a different direction? It's not necessarily like progress, like, oh, it's better and better every time. Maybe it's
Right.
just different. I mean, it's going to be excellent either way, but
How many of these were singles, chart hits? There's not many of them, right? So we're not talking about a band who are super productive like ABBA, who have got like 3 greatest hits
right.
albums with
No.
30 songs on it. They're all
They're
classics.
an album-oriented band, like all those others. Floyd, Zeppelin, you know, Bowie, we could say. It's all about the album. It's not just the hit
It's a
single.
different beast, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, Zeppelin wouldn't even release singles, right? That was their
Right.
policy. I mean, I think they did release some eventually, but like in the beginning, it's like, no, we don't do
More so under
singles.
duress, though, wasn't it? It was they're just
Yeah,
like,
they
no.
were like forced. It's like, we don't do singles. We're this. You buy our album. We're an album-oriented band, right? So that's what the big boys do. All right. So as always,
I have one more thing to add about the lyrics. Sorry to interrupt you. We got some of these lyrics from the second album, But You Blew My Mind, comes to my mind. But in this third album, there's a certain kind of maturity as well in kind of Ferry's lyrics. You know, not that And You Blew My Mind isn't a cool lyric, it's a great lyric, but there's a lot more expansion and kind of, you know, different aspects of storytelling and things like that. Now, whether these are kind of reflective of his own circumstances or his own life stories, as it were, I don't know. I'm interested to find out more about that as well, and where the next album will take us in that sense of lyrical storytelling.
well,
Sorry to interrupt you.
let's get to that in a second. Just a quick plug: subscribe to the Substack, or don't. Mark will write WRITE.substack.com, and this will eventually be on YouTube, at least the video, at Mark will write WRITE. Let me stop sharing this, and back to our ugly mugs, or at least my ugly mug, and my red hat still looking pretty garish, but whatever.
Nice and resplendent.
I'm glam today. Yeah,
It's a bit orangey, actually.
that's what I'm saying. Like
orangey.
that's the problem. I had a red shirt on for that Joycean podcast, and it looked orange also. And this is believe me, it's a red cap, but it does look orange. So whatever. Maybe it matches the orange, you know, hosed down, skimpy dress that the girl on the cover was wearing. Maybe not. Anyway, I was gonna say, yeah, he's still playful, Ferry, that is, but there's maybe more of a maturity to his lyrics, although he still talks about his latest fling in a kind of, you know, casual way. So there's all of that.
By all accounts, did you read that Sam was one of the first songs he'd ever written?
No.
Did you read that?
No, I didn't know that.
So from my notes or my trawling about various websites and stuff, let me see if we can find it up here. Sam, apparently the first song that Bryan Ferry ever wrote, also their second longest, coming out over 8 minutes. Okay, so I just kind of made a note of.
No, I had no idea. That's crazy.
The rumors were this was one of the first. So he's probably, as I was saying, this kind of magic suitcase or big old briefcase he's got of.
And maybe
more of that shit, Bryan.
Maybe he was embarrassed to share it. It's like, I got this Jesus song.
It's intense and personal, isn't it? I mean, it's a you can't imagine the record company in the first album going, you know what, Bryan? Yeah, let's put that as the opening track. Why not?
Yeah, we can market it on gospel radio or something. All right,
with his makeup on and all these kind of glam gear and all that.
Oh yeah, man! The Southern Baptists would love that. The snake handlers would. Actually, the snake handlers might rock out to that. Might do well in certain more physically expressive and musical churches. But anyway, we've been discussing and listening to, at least in our minds and in preparation for this broadcast, we were focusing on the third Roxy Music album, Stranded. And so the name of this episode was Do the Stranded. You'll get that if you know the second album. And if you don't, well, go
Go
listen
back
to
and
it,
listen to it.
or listen
Right.
to our previous
Yes.
episode, even better. And so next we have the fourth Roxy Music album, which is called Country Life, and we talked about how that is alluded to or foreshadowed, let's say, in Stranded. I don't remember it at all. I couldn't tell you without looking the name of a track on Country Life, so I'm.
Pajama Rama, I'm
Oh,
guessing.
okay. I that does sound familiar, but I couldn't sing it for you at this moment. So I'm looking forward to getting back into that, rediscovering it as though listening to it for the first time. And after we, do some prep, I guess we'll turn on the cams and mics again, hopefully without any technical difficulties. I think we were fine this time. No,
I'm hoping this new setup I've got, this new re setup I've got, comes out in the mix all right.
you remade and remodeled your setup there. It seems to have worked well.
In Germany, they say never change a running system, but there you go. Maybe I've been here too long. But I don't listen to them, evidently, right? I keep changing it. But yeah, fingers crossed this comes out in the mix quite.
I think so. I don't anticipate there being any problems with editing, unless Riverside is to blame, and that's always a possibility. All right. Well, thanks to everyone, all the audio files that listened. Let us know what you think. If there's anything you want
And
to...
our friends on Reddit as well. We should say that.
Oh,
I
yeah.
shared the last episode
That's
on
right.
Reddit, and we had a little feedback, so that might be
That's
nice
right.
if they can join us in their love of Roxy music or their albums or whatever it may be. But
Good
all
point.
things Roxy.
Good point. I'll put that in the show notes as well. And if you've got anything else you want me to put in the show notes, please send it to me. And
Right on.
yeah, I'll get this out soon. And then we'll start talking about episode 4. So thanks to everyone, and thanks to you, Craig, and we'll see everybody next time. Farewell.